That's quite a Virginia Beach welcome. I won't forget that. I got to tell you, that's really something. And thank you to Mark Wills for entertaining everybody this evening. Appreciate his music, and also, gosh, your Senator Jeff McWaters. He also did a little singing here tonight, a little plucking. And you guys, aren't you amazing? Thank you so much for that welcome, for your support, for your help. What a terrific governor you have. Everywhere I go, people love Bob McDonnell. What a terrific man. Congratulations on having selected him as your governor. And thank you also to former governor of the next United States Senator George Allen. Appreciate his great work for you, for the country. Congressman Ridgell, appreciate your being here. We got to re-elect him as well, and my guess is you're going to do that solidly and handsomely. Now, I know we were supposed to be together, was it last Sunday, and then we called everybody or emailed everybody and said, sorry, we can't do it. And obviously, the pending hurricane changed everything, and I guess we just gave you notice yesterday that we were going to be here tonight, and the fact that you've turned out in such a response as this is overwhelming. I appreciate it. It's a great sign. Thank you. And for those of you that are still suffering from the hurricane's effects, our hearts go out to you. We want to help. I know there are people across the nation, particularly across the east coast of the nation, in New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania and other states as well up north that have been very badly damaged. Many lives have been lost. We as Americans come together to help those that are in trouble, and if you have an extra dollar or more, go on the website for the American Red Cross or Salvation Army or other relief organizations, and let's make sure that we come together as Americans to help those that need help right now. Now, I think I know what brings you here. This is an election of consequence. This election matters. All elections matter to some degree, but this one will set the course for America, not just for 4 years, but for a decade or a generation. And that's in part because the president will put us on the path we've been on the last 4 years. He believes in the status quo. And the policies of the last 4 years, in my view, are not the policies America needs for the future. I believe it's time for real change to get America on the right track. I mean, would you want 4 more years where 23 million people are looking for a good job? Would you want 4 more years with declining earnings and raising taxes? Would you want 4 more years with trillion-dollar deficits every year? How about 4 more years of gridlock in Washington, D.C.? Look, the Obama campaign is out there chanting. I just drove by a group of protesters today, and they were out there chanting 4 more years. We have our own chant. It's 5 more days, all right? Thanks, you guys. You know, we're going to have to come up with a new slogan tomorrow. you know, the president's been casting about, looking for some kind of an agenda to describe to the American people. I mean, we've had 3 presidential debates, which I enjoyed, and we had... And we had a vice presidential debate as well, and I enjoyed that. And neither the president nor the vice president were able to describe an agenda for the coming 4 years other than just more of the same. They came up with something this last week, though. The president said he's going to consider putting in place a Secretary of Business, all right, a Department of Business. Well, first, of course, we already have a Department of Commerce, and commerce and business do mean the same thing, after all. But I don't happen to think that putting in a new chair in the cabinet room is going to bring new jobs to the people of America. So we got a plan instead to do that. You see, I don't think that what we need is another government bureaucrat that supposedly knows something about job creation. I think it'd be helpful to have a president who actually understands job creation. You know that I don't know how closely you're watching the president's campaign. My guess is you're not seeing a lot of MSNBC, but if you or other stations that are showing both sides of the campaign. But the president's campaign has become smaller and smaller and smaller. And I say that because, I mean, he was just the other day talking about saving characters on Sesame Street and playing word games with my name and attacking me on a regular basis, and attacks that he knows aren't true. Attacking me is not an agenda for a second term. Given what the world faces, our economy facing real challenges, families in America having hard times making ends meet, middle class being crushed, massive debt which threatens our future, jihadists still on the warpath, if you will, and expanding their influence in various parts of the world, competition from places like China that will continue to be tough and even tougher as time goes on. Given these kinds of things, this is no time for small measures. This is time for real change, and when I'm elected president, on day one, we'll bring real change to America. And you may have heard, I've got 5 things that I know will get this economy going. 5 elements, 5 steps that are going to create 12 million jobs, more take-home pay, and by the way, with 12 million more people working and more take-home pay, we'll be able to get more revenue to get us closer to balancing our budget on a faster timetable. And so, and you probably know what those things are, but number 1, we're going to take full advantage of our oil, our coal, our natural gas, renewables, and nuclear. You see, someone figured out how not only to drill into the earth vertically, but how to go in vertically and then horizontally. And by going in horizontally, they can tap into various pockets of oil and gas. And as a result of that, we've got 100 years of natural gas at very low cost. As we take advantage of that natural gas as well as our other energy resources, we're going to have manufacturing come back here because of the abundant low-cost energy. This is good for America. This is something that's an extraordinary stimulant for our economy. And then because we're the most productive of any major nation on earth, I want to open up more trade, particularly in Latin America. And by the way, if nations cheat in trade and China has not been playing by the rules, we have to call them on the carpet. We can't have people not follow the rules of fair trade. Number three, we got to be serious about helping people that need new skills so they can compete in today's job market, but we've also got to fix our schools. It's so critical to be able to have our schools globally competitive. We know how to do that. We know what it takes. And there are all sorts of studies that are done about how you fix schools. But the key is to make sure that you bring in the best and brightest to be teachers, you compensate them well, you give them an incentive to do the very best job in the classroom. The key is teachers. Number four, this may not be obvious as to why this relates to jobs, but it does, and that's the deficit. If every year we keep spending $1 trillion more than we take in, we're going to find ourselves on the road to Greece. And the people in America who are thinking about risking their life savings to start a business and hire people, or big companies that are thinking of coming here and building new facilities and hiring people, they're not going to do that if they think America is going to face that kind of financial crisis. And so it is essential for us, for many reasons, to finally cut federal spending, to cap it as a percentage of our economy, and get on track to a balanced budget, and I'll do it. And number five, I want to champion small business. I want to help small business grow and thrive. And there are important things to do to make that happen. Regulators have to see their job as encouraging small business. We've got to reform our tax code. Just to give you a sense of that, our tax rate for businesses that are most successful is 35%. Canada's is 15%. So guess what happens when a company that can be either place decides where to build a new factory? China's is 25%. The European nations are around 25% as well. We're the highest in the world. We're losing jobs. These other countries have realized by lowering their tax rates for employers, they get more jobs, and then people pay taxes with those jobs. I want to bring our tax rates down for small business so we can create more jobs. And by the way, the only way we're going to get these 5 things done is by reaching across the aisle and working with people in both parties. I have to be able to get good Democrats and good Republicans together to get this country back on track, and I will. There are two very different paths for the country. One is the path we're on, the status quo, and the other is one that's represented by change from day one. And you know where they lead. If the president were to be reelected, well, you're going to see $20 trillion in debt and a Greece-like crisis heading into our future. That's if the president's reelected. If instead I get elected, when I get elected, we're going to get to a balanced budget. And likewise, if the president were to have his way, well, you're going to have Obamacare, and that's going to mean that That's going to mean $716 billion in cuts to Medicare for our seniors, and it also means that your health insurance, which by the way went up $2,500 a year, is going to go up another $2,500 a year because of Obamacare. My own view is this: it is time for us to get rid of Obamacare and return to the American people the right for their own health care. Now, you know what'll happen with energy if the president gets reelected. He says he likes, I love the sound of those jets, I know, yeah. You heard your governor. The president's reelected, you're going to see about $1 trillion in cuts. And that means a smaller Air Force and an older Air Force. Our Air Force is older and smaller than any time since it was founded in 1947. And then, of course, the Navy. The Navy said they need at least 313 ships to be able to fulfill their missions in the world. We're now down to 285. We're headed a heck of a lot lower. Look, I don't believe the Navy is like bayonets and horses, even though I know we use bayonets and they save a lot of lives. Like bayonets, a modern Navy also will save lives, because a strong American military, so strong no one would think of testing it, so strong that people would rather meet us on the bargaining table than on the battlefield. That is essential to us and to the world. Unlike the president, I'll restore that funding to our military. I'll aim for about 4% of the GDP for our military. I will increase the number of ships we build per year. I'll increase our purchases of aircraft. We'll have more troops, not less troops. I believe in a strong military. the president, when it comes to energy, if he were reelected, you know where we're going, because, you know, he says he's for all the above. And I couldn't quite figure out what he meant, because, of course, his policies have really crushed coal, and his policies have made it harder to take advantage of our natural gas. His policies have made it harder to get our oil out of the ground. He's cut in half the permits and licenses on federal lands and in federal waters for drilling for oil and gas. And so how can he say he's for all the above? And then I figured it out. He's for all the sources of energy that come from above the ground, all right? And I actually like coal and oil. I also like natural gas. I want to use all these resources, and I will, and we'll get North American energy independence in 8 years. Now I want you to know that I'm optimistic. I know that we're facing some challenging times, but I'm absolutely convinced that brighter times are ahead. And I believe they're going to start very soon. 5 days, 5 days, 5 days. And I say that because as I've looked across the country over these last few years and over my lifetime, I've seen in the American people an entrepreneurial, hard-working, energetic, innovative, family-loving, God-fearing people. And I know that at a time like this that the American people will draw on their greatness if they're led by a person who calls on them to do so, to overcome the challenges we have. And part of that stems from my life experience. I was at one point a Boy Scout leader. Any Boy Scout leaders here or Boy Scouters here? Good. And so you know what I mean by a Boy Scout Court of Honor. We were having one of them in a gymnasium. As one of the leaders, I was sitting at the front, at the end of a long Formica table next to a flagpole, the flag on it. And the scoutmaster who was speaking was from Monument, Colorado. And he said that his Boy Scout troop wanted to have a very special flag, so they bought one. They had it flown above the Capitol building. When it came home, they decided that it should go on a space shuttle. So they contacted NASA and said, would you take our flag on a space shuttle? And NASA agreed. He said the boys were so proud looking from their rooms at school, watching TV as they saw the shuttle Challenger take off, and then they saw it explode before their eyes. And he said he contacted NASA and asked them if they had found any remnant of their flag, and they had not. He said he called every week, month after month, still nothing. And finally he was reading an article some months later in the paper that described some of the debris from the Challenger disaster. And there was a mention of a flag. So he called NASA again, and they said in fact they wanted to come make a presentation to the Boy Scout troop. So NASA came and presented the boys with a plastic container, and he said we open it up, and there was the flag in perfect condition. And then he said, there it is at the end of the table next to Mr. Romney on that pole. And so I reached over and pulled the flag out, and it was as if electricity was running through my arm as I thought about the people who were lost in that tragic flight. And I thought about the men and women in our space program who put themselves in dangerous path for learning, for knowledge, for us, for America. I think that this is part of the American spirit, and that is to give of oneself for something greater than oneself. Think of the men and women in our armed forces who give themselves for freedom. I have one of our, as you know, one of our favorite American hymns is America the Beautiful. The first verse talks about the beauty of our land. A verse that touches my heart is one that goes, "O beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life." Would our veterans and armed services members please raise your hands and be recognized? There are heroes in other ways. I saw a definition once of a hero. It said a hero doesn't have to be larger than life. You just have to be larger than yourself. I think of my sister Lynn. She has 8 children, and the first 7 of them are married with children of their own. The 8th boy was born Down syndrome. He's now 43. My sister Lynn is in her 70s. Her husband passed away a few years ago. So for 43 years, she's been devoting herself to caring for this son of hers to make sure he has a full and abundant life as much as possible. My sister's a hero to me. I love her. I think of the single moms across America that are saving and scrimping to make sure they can put a good meal on the table at the end of the day for their children. I think of the dads and the moms working 2 jobs because they want to have enough money to buy clothes for their kids so their kids won't stick out at school and look different than the other kids. Think of all the parents this Christmas time who will say to each other, let's not exchange gifts between one another. Let's make sure we have enough for our kids to have a great Christmas. It's in our nature as Americans to live for things bigger than ourselves, our families, our churches and synagogues, our communities, our schools and universities, our branches of the armed service, our country. It's who we are as a people. And at a time like this, I recognize that the people here and the people across this great state have very full hearts because of the love you have for this country. I also know that you have clear eyes because you know the consequence of this election. Clear eyes, full hearts. I'm counting on you to make sure we will win. We can't lose. We can't lose with your full hearts and clear eyes. Thank you so very much. We're bringing back America. We're going to create a bright and prosperous future for you, for your kids, and the world will be a better place because of it. Thank you so very much. You guys are great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, guys.